Hey there, welcome back to another fresh video on Deepcodr. In this video, let's understand what is this prompt, something that we were using in our previous videos inside our Dockerfile. These are nothing but Docker base images. So in this video, let's understand what are these Docker base images and how to use these images to spin up a container, and we will also have a look at how to create our own base images with the help of Docker engine. So without any delay, let's start this video. So before we go to the base images, let's understand where these images will be used in the container. So let's have a look at the Docker architecture. So if we have a look at the Docker architecture, we have the hardware, above which there will be the host operating system like Mac OS, Linux or Windows, and above that we will install the Docker engine. So this Docker engine will act as a hypervisor that will create a virtualization layer that will be used by the containers to use the operating system of the different types. So the container will be using the virtualization layer that will be provided by the Docker engine to perform various tasks required by the application. So let's have a look at the architecture of the container. So if we have a look at the architecture of the container, we will be using the binaries and the libraries which are required by the application code in the image. We will specify these details in the image, and the image will create a layer in the container file system. So the container will use the base images to start itself, above which it will install the required binaries, libraries and all other runtime dependencies for the application. Then it will use the application code to run the application in the container. So that is how the base images will be used by the container. The lowest level of the base image that we will have will be the Debian-based Linux base image. So above these images, we will have this custom modifications and configurations to convert these base images into the required format. So let's have a look at the popular image of the Node.js that we have used in our previous videos. So if we go to the Docker image of the Node.js, we can see that it has been built using the Alpine Linux. So let's have a look at the Docker file. So here we can see it is using the base image called Alpine 3.90. This is nothing but the Alpine Linux distribution. And above this we have modifications to install and configure the Node.js. So similarly, we have the different types of the base images for different purposes on the Docker Hub. Now that we know what are Docker base images, let's understand how to create our own Docker base image with the help of running container, and also we'll see how to create a Docker image from scratch image that is provided by the Docker. So let's spin up a container with the help of the Ubuntu base image and give it a name as Nginx base container. We will open it in the interactive mode with the base image as Ubuntu. As we can see, we have got the terminal of the Ubuntu operating system. Let's update the apt. After this, we will install Nginx server on this container. Well, this is done. Let's check whether our service is running. We can see that Nginx server is not running, so let's start the Nginx server by service Nginx start. We can see that our Nginx server has been started. To check whether the installation is successful, we will install the curl utility and hit the endpoint to check whether the Nginx has been installed correctly or not. We can see that we got the home page of the Nginx server, so that means our Nginx server is working correctly. Now let's create the base image from this container which is already running. So the base image that we will create will have the Nginx server pre-installed, and we can use it to further configure it for other applications. So the command we will use to create a base image will be docker container commit. Then we will add the message for the layer that we are going to create. And finally we will specify the name of the container to be used, which will be nginx space container, and the name of the image will be nginx space. Now let's see whether the image got created or not. We can see our image has been created successfully. To check this image, we will run a new container from this image, again in the interactive mode. First, we will remove the existing container that is running. Now we will spin up a new container with docker run -ti, which will run our container in the interactive mode, and then we will specify the port number 8080 to be mapped with container port 80. And we got the interactive terminal. So let's start the nginx server. And as we can see, our nginx is not running. That means we got the nginx server pre-installed from this base image. And let's start the service. Now let's go to the browser and hit the localhost 8080 URL to see whether we are getting the output or not. And we can see that we got the home page of the nginx. That means the nginx is running correctly and the base image is working correctly. So that is how we create base images from the running container. Now that we know how to create Docker base image using container, let's see how to create a Docker base image using the Scratch image provided by the Docker. Now let's go to the editor and create a Docker file for building our image. Now let's specify from attribute with the Scratch image to be used. Then we will add this hello from Docker executable to the working directory. And finally we will specify the command to execute the executable, which will be /hello from Docker. Once this is done, our Docker file is ready to be used. Now we will use this Docker file to build the base image. To build the base image, we will use docker build. Then we will specify the tag for the image, which will be scratch base. And then we will use the Docker file with the dot. And we can see our image got created. Now to use this image, we will create a new container with the help of the image that we have created. So to run a new container, we will use docker run. Then we will specify the name of the image. And as we can see, we got the output of the hello from Docker executable. The executable that we are using has no runtime dependencies or any other programming languages dependencies to run, as Scratch image provides only minimum configuration for running the image. It will not provide these dependencies, hence we are using the static executable. So that is how we use Scratch to build the base image for our Docker. So that's it for this video. For more such interesting videos and tutorials, do share my videos and subscribe to my channel. I will see you in the another interesting video. Till then, keep deploying.